Imagine you're tasked with transporting a bus full of angry and violent convicts to a high-security prison when it gets ambushed and flipped over, and now you're at their mercy. And to make matters worse, you're all stuck in the woods together at night being hunted by an ugly, wild, bloodthirsty cannibal. From dodging the cannibal's killer traps to dodging each other's own egos and motives, we're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to survive the deformed, inbred, mutant cannibal Three Fingers in Wrong Turn 3, Left for Dead. In West Virginia, sort of in the middle of nowhere, 4 college friends go rafting down the river together. They're having an absolute blast, with no idea what this place has in store for them. They pull off the water to set up camp for the night in a nice little area. While the boys go off to find some firewood, the girls stay back to sunbathe and get some tan on, stripping topless. Alex makes some stray comment about a banjo-playing freak in the woods, but this is interrupted when Brent comes back, saying that Trey is being picky about the type of firewood that he wants to gather. Alex leaves Brent and Sophie together, taking the wing woman hint, and those two immediately start getting their public sex in the woods freak on, which is hot for maybe 2 seconds before, boom, an arrow is shot right through Sophie's breast and Brent's hand. Sophie is bleeding and they both start screaming when Three Finger appears and starts shooting at the both of them. Brent opts to fend for himself and totally abandons Sophie and runs away, leaving her for dead. And she's shot again right through the eye. Call that a bullseye, I guess. Alex sees this from the side and watches as Three Fingers steps up and eats her eyeball like a goddamn hors d'oeuvre. Yup, you got that right. Three Fingers is a cannibal, and the reason he looks so gross and deformed is because he's inbred from a whole group of nasty cannibals. Trey comes back with firewood, but drops the pile in shock, which sets Three Finger off to chase him through the woods, cackling maniacally. Trey trips and falls, and once Three Finger catches up to him, he gets fed a steak right through the mouth. I mean, talk about brutal. Brent also goes through the woods screaming for help when he comes across a tripwire that sets off a high-speed trap that slices him straight into thirds. And no, not head, body, and legs thirds, as in literal thirds. Cue the crazy CGI gore. They had a budget of like $2 million. We don't judge. Well, maybe just a little. But he falls to pieces, and Three Finger immediately starts feasting on his new cut-open meat. And that is one hell of an opening. Now, I'm all for a rafting trip with some homies, but what gets me right off the bat is when Alex mentions that she knows of Three Finger by mentioning the banjo-playing freak. This is the 3rd movie in the franchise, so it's pretty well established that this area is known for people going missing with rumors of some bloody cannibal hillbilly killer, and fairly recently too. I mean, wouldn't you plan accordingly and find a different area, or I don't know, literally Google this on TripAdvisor or something? Because I'm pretty sure the number 1 search result would be do not camp here at all. Now, there's a freak in the woods who is infamous for killing tons of people. And we've all seen the movie 127 Hours, I'm sure, but the number 1 safety rule when going camping or adventuring into the great outdoors is to tell people where you're going. So if you do end up trapped or gone or missing, people will know immediately. But not only that, maybe people would have told them not to come here? I mean, whose idea was this? Once they're attacked, everyone immediately starts screaming for help, which I don't blame them, but they're totally alone in the woods with no one around, which we know because they were about to have sex here. So who are they screaming to? I mean, if anything, they're just revealing their location for Three Finger to come at them with his arrows. In this situation, the best thing to do would be to be quiet and hide. Yeah. Either behind trees, behind bushes, or hell, even burying yourself under a pile of leaves and lying very still. Alex managed to hide because she was quiet and not just running out into the open for him to find her. Now, there's honestly no way to really avoid the traps in the woods because they're hidden and so well crafted, but why are they running out into the woods to begin with? I mean, if it were me, I would have hidden until the coast was clear, and then immediately got back on the rafts and rode it down the river as fast as it could take me. And sure, maybe he could shoot an arrow into the raft and pop it, but I'd rather take my chances swimming down the river, which is bound to lead somewhere, than wade into the woods to be chopped up. Especially once you see him run off into the woods to chase your friend. But sorry, it's everyone fends for themselves in this situation, and that could be the needed distraction to get yourself to safety. A couple days later, we're at the West Virginia Grafton Penitentiary, where we meet some baddest of the bad type inmates. Floyd, a serial killer and also a neo-Nazi, goes up to talk to Carlos Chavez, the leader of a big-time crime organization, about a secret business deal that they have going on. Chavez said that he paid Floyd a lot of money to not up his big plan for next week, when Chavez and Floyd are supposed to be transferred to another facility, where basically Chavez's gang is going to try and break him out during the transfer. Nate, a prison guard, arrives at work and is told by his co-worker, another prison guard, that the warden wants to speak with them about the important prisoner transfer happening tonight, which Nate is against because he just wanted to have a normal shift and go home, not go on some high-stakes road trip. Boy, is he in for a horrible night once gets wild. Nate meets up with Warden and is introduced to Willie Juarez, who Nate recognizes as a prisoner, but the Warden reveals has been undercover and is actually a U.S. Marshal. Warden tells Nate that Willie is going to help him with the transportation of Chavez, which was moved up to tonight because they got a tip about Chavez's secret plan they were gonna pull next week. Nate is told to chain Willie and Chavez together on the bus so Willie can attempt to figure out who Chavez is passing his information through. And as an added precaution, the warden also altered their route that no one else knows about outside of this team. Meanwhile, at the sheriff's station, Deputy Allie Lane gets a call regarding the college kids who went missing on the river rafting trip and never came back. So the local sheriff, Calvin Carver, goes to investigate the area. Girl, alone? You're going to investigate the area in the middle of the night in cannibal country alone. More on this later, but that sounds like a recipe for disaster. Nate and Walter get Chavez from his cell and tell him that he's being transferred now instead of next week. Surprise! Of course, Chavez is not happy about this, but he doesn't have much of a choice. Joining us in this little fun group field trip, we've got Brandon the ex-Marine, Crawford the car thief, Floyd the Nazi, and Chavez's escape partner Willie the undercover Marshal, and Crawford, our big baddie crime leader. Chavez is chained up to Willie, as they planned, and the group of these inmates are led out to the bus and sent on their way. The prisoners all argue with each other on the bus, while Nate and Walker talk up front about Nate trying to graduate law school so he can buy a big house and move to Manhattan. He's got big ambitions, this Nate. The bus keeps traveling down the back roads as it becomes nighttime, and they arrive at the sheriff's station for a quick stop. Sheriff Carver and Nate reunite and small talk about how Nate used to grow up around these parts way back when, while the prisoners all get restroom breaks and sort of take turns sexually harassing Deputy Lane. And you know what? Yeah, I won't be too bummed when these guys start dying in the woods one by one. You know what I mean? Carver asks why they're driving through Greenbrier down the old Mill Road, which, yeah, that's all of our question too, and Nate explains that they're transporting a high-profile prisoner so that they want to keep the route confidential. Three Toes is introduced, lurking in the woods, looking as deformed and jank as his uncle Three Finger. He sets up some sort of wooden spiked trap in the woods, falls under it himself from not being strong enough, the little weak freak, until Three Finger comes to help him up and sets the trap into place, covering it with leaves to hide it. Nate and the prisoners leave the sheriff's station with Carver's safe travel wishes, and they exchange numbers to catch up later once Nate has safely passed the bus through the trails. Continuing down the dark abandoned roads, someone begins driving up behind them and flashing their high beams to get attention. Thinking it's some sort of escape tactic, Nate tries to calm and urges Walter to continue driving as normal, hoping the car will just go around them and pass, but little do they know, this is Three Finger about to hunt down a tasty meal. Walter gets on the radio to call for help and alert the others, but his phone suddenly has no signal. Three Fingers starts ramming into the rear of the bus, attacking them, rams them again and again into the side of the road, and then quickly drives around the bus and lays down barbed wire, which tangles up the bus tires and forces them to crash off the road and turn over. This does not look good. Now here we are again with someone already knowing about the dangers of this route. This was Sheriff Carver's chance to tell them to reroute and detour. What happened to if you see something, say something here? I mean, Carver knew this route was sketchy, but just let them go along anyways. When it comes to being chased down a freaking road like this, whether it's road rage or a crazy cannibal, the number one rule is to never stop your car. It's a super common tactic for people to be attacked once they're lured to a stop, so make sure your gas tank is always full, stay calm, and keep driving forward. As soon as something started going wrong, Walter should have f***ing floored it. Three Finger has the advantage here of having a smaller, more mobile tow truck, but the type of prison bus they're driving appears to be a Bluebird bus, which is basically just a type of school bus. And those are legally allowed to drive up to 80 miles per hour on some interstates, meaning it definitely has the capability to drive faster. Maybe Three Fingers has the advantage of having a smaller and faster car, but they have a bigger car that weighs more, and they could have tried to drive back and push back. Or they could have lined up straight in front of Three Finger's truck, braked into a hard stop, which hopefully would cause Three Finger to fully ram into their rear end and crash himself. The bus is on fire now from the crash, and everyone is beat up and injured and toppled over inside. Nate quickly gets up and helps everyone get through the back of the bus one by one. Chavez and Floyd try to pull a fast one when Floyd fake falls to the ground in pain. Yeah. And while Nate checks on him, Chavez headbutts him and grabs his gun and takes control. Chavez demands the keys to unlock the chains, which Nate says he dropped in the bus when Preslow holds Chavez at even bigger gunpoint and forces Chavez to drop the gun. Preslow is immediately stabbed in the neck from someone off screen. The cannibals start shooting arrows at the group while Chavez tries to shoot Preslow's gun at them to no success. The prisoners try to get down low and hide nearby while Nate heads back into the burning bus to save Walter, who is still inside, and grab the keys to the prisoners' chains. As demanded by Chavez, Nate pulls Walter out just in time before the bus freaking explodes. But they're not safe yet because now they're being held hostage by the prisoners, who grab the keys and other weapons off of them both, forcing them to move as Walter is injured and limping. When they think the coast is clear, they stop to take the leg irons off, but when they don't work, Nate explains that there were different sets of keys for the cuffs and the leg irons, and this set was all he managed to find in the bus. Knowing that Nate grew up around this area, based on Nate's earlier conversation with the sheriff, Chavez demands that Nate leads the way out of here and gets him to a phone. Otherwise, Chavez is going to kill him. Nate says there's an old forest ranger's fire watchtower near the top of the mountain that should have communication equipment, maybe a cell phone, and starts leading the way. Walking through the woods, they hear a sound and shoot into the distance, thinking it's Three Finger, but it's actually Alex who pops out, the college kid from the rafting trip a couple days ago who watched her three friends die. She jumps out and attacks Nate, thinking he's one of the cannibals, and then explains her situation once she calms down. She says the crazy hillbilly in the woods killed all her friends and ate them because it's not some lunatic, but it's a monstrous, deformed mutant cannibal. They don't immediately believe her, but she warns them of the danger ahead and that they're all being actively hunted for food. Chavez comes up with the idea to use Alex's rafts to get out of here down the river and demands Alex take everyone to the rafts. They come across a tipped-over armored car and try to figure out which way to go, but Alex is lost and says her surroundings do not look familiar. Going up to the car, Chavez forces Nate to climb into the cab and take a look around, just in case there's anything of interest in there. There's dried blood on the victims and the bodies are gone, meaning it's obviously a sign of Three Fingers' past victims. Nate finds a gun and secretly pockets it, along with some keys, and gives Chavez the keys to open the trunk. They open the trunk to find a huge bag of cash. Nate secretly gives Walter the gun. The prisoners argue and fight about who gets to keep the money and how they should split it, and Chavez shuts down that quickly. Obviously, he's in charge and gets to keep it all, but he's gonna force everyone to carry the bags for him, including Nate and Walter, even though Walter is injured and can barely carry his own weight. Chavez steps up to Walter to demand he pick up the bag, and Walter shoots him with the gun. Unfortunately for him, the gun is out of bullets and goes off blank, and Chavez immediately knocks him out in retaliation. He gives Walter one last chance to pick up the bag, and when Walter refuses, Chavez shoots him dead. Sorry, Walter, but at least he went out in honor, refusing to bow down to some crime lord. The rest of them all carry 2 bags of cash each as they keep marching through the woods in the dark and come across that wooden spike trap the cannibals set earlier. Then Three Toes pops out from the leaves to attack. He wrestles Floyd for a bit, but the fight is cut very short when Chavez just shoots him with ease. Alex warns that the real monster was a full-grown man and much more dangerous. Chavez still isn't fazed by the threat and decides to leave Three Finger a message. Floyd holds Three Toes down as Chavez brutally cuts his head off to leave this as a warning. A spike trap in the woods? No thank you. I would be so out by this point, and here's the thing. We've sort of seen again and again that Chavez has aim whenever he tries shooting at the cannibal and misses every time. And sure, this is pretty ballsy, but Nate and Alex can literally just run away at any point and not be Chavez's hostages anymore. What's he gonna do, chase them down? He can't run because he's still chained up to the rest of the lot. With a little lucky timing, they could distract him with the money, wait for a moment that he's not looking, and then book it, especially now that Walter is dead, and Nate doesn't have to worry about supporting his weight. And in my opinion, I'd have them run back to the rafts alone and head off to safety. And if they're being shot at, they could zigzag back and forth to avoid it, which is exactly how you should run if you're being chased by an alligator too. And I'm not calling Nate totally incompetent and pathetic, but dude, you're a prison guard. What do you mean you don't have fighting training? The police academy doesn't have some sort of bare bones prerequisite to become a prison guard? All police officers are trained in self-defense and use of force tactics. And okay, let's say that Nate doesn't want to go the violence route because it's too risky, but he can at least try to negotiate. It's pretty clear that Chavez just wants his money and to get set free, so a little conversation could have been worth a shot before we turned into all this violence. That's a literal job occupation, professional police crisis negotiators. Nate could use a lesson or two. So they kill Three Toes pretty easily, which is all fine and good, but I mean, beat him at his own game. Put Three Toes' dead body up as bait, and when Three Fingers goes in to get a closer look at his dead nephew, bam! Again, just like in the opening scene, wandering around and running into the woods is definitely gonna get you killed. And they're far better off finding a spot to hide, and staying put and quiet would be more productive and probably safer than this. The group finally arrive at the rafts, and they realize that these small 2-people rafts definitely aren't going to be enough to hold everyone and the money. The group realizes pretty quickly that Chavez is going to try and escape alone with all of the money, but he says that they could talk about it once they get the chains off, spoken like a true liar. Crawford tries to smash the chains off with a rock, and Chavez shoots at the chain on Willie's ankle for funsies because Chavez is f***ing crazy. Assuming that Chavez is probably just going to kill all of them once he gets his own escape, Nate pops a small hole in the raft. Chavez starts beating him, and Nate says, "Looks like you still need this mule to carry your money." Chavez lets up but screams, demanding that Nate find him a way out of here if he wants to live, which I suppose that was Nate's plan all along, right? Stay useful and stay needed so he can stay alive. They all pick up their bags of money, which are totally slowing them down by the way, and keep moving. Three Finger goes back to the spiked wooden trap and finds Three Toes' severed head on a spike and screams and sobs. Hearing that from afar, Chavez happily says that the freak learned his lesson, but Alex thinks that they might have just pissed him off and they should stay alert. And honestly, yeah, I'm on Alex's side here. We've seen what this insane freak can do, which, quick note, if you hear where Three Finger is, go the other fucking direction, people. This is knowledge. Knowledge is power, and you people are not using what your surroundings are giving you. Back at the sheriff's station, Allie calls to give him an update that they found a truck by the river and she wants to check it out. And she also says that she hasn't heard anything from Nate. Worried about the lack of an update when they should have called by now, Carver says that he's going to check it out too. In the woods, they come across Preslow's keys hanging down from a string, which is so obviously a fucking trap, but eager to get the chains off, Chavez goes to grab them without a second thought, which sets off another slice contraption that fully kills Willie and fully slices off the front of his whole face. Three Finger comes laughing and running through the woods, and Chavez tries shooting him through the trees but misses every time. Needing to get a move on, but now chained to Willie's dead body, Chavez and Floyd have no hesitation in cutting off his legs to get him detached. It's wet and sloshy and gross, and they just carry his feet with them for now, I guess. Alright, now this is just fucking nasty, and I mean like Saw franchise level nasty, but the thing is, they really didn't need to cut off his whole leg to get him out of the leg irons. They could have just cut off a portion of his heel, or even just a portion of his foot so it's small enough to slip out of the cuff, or they could have broken his foot so it was flexible and able to slip out. Oh, and while we're at it, let's talk about these chains and the shackles to begin with. They have guns, and have had guns this whole time. Sure, maybe they can't get the actual thick metal leg irons off, but they can definitely shoot at the small chains between them so that they're not connected to each other anymore. Not to mention, these people are still just walking in the woods with no direction. Nate says this is a tactic to buy time, but again, they could buy time in a safer environment. Instead of walking aimlessly in the middle of the woods where it's been established that there are killer traps that they cannot see or avoid, they could have just walked down along the riverside. At least that would be a clear path of direction where they know they're heading. You know, somewhere new and not in circles. The sound of water could cover their voices and keep them more hidden, and it would more likely lead somewhere else. If not the river, it's useful for another sort of guide for direction, like the stars, where they can keep heading north. Or they should have stayed walking down the literal road that they crashed off of, because at least that leads to a town and they have a better chance of someone passing to find them. In the woods, they come across a small little hideout of sorts and find bolt cutters where they can finally cut off the chains around their ankles. Now that they're finally free of each other, Floyd suggests they split up and Chavez refuses. Floyd calls Chavez on his bullshit, saying that he knows he's just going to kill them all at the end and take the cash for himself, and Chavez settles on a compromise, saying that if Floyd helps him keep the rest of the group in line to carry all the cash, then Chavez will let Floyd join their safe house once Chavez's men come find and rescue him. On top of that, Chavez will only keep half the money and the rest of them can split the rest. You know, like a liar. Nonetheless, Floyd accepts the deal. Walking around again, Brandon catches up to Nate and asks why they've been walking in circles, as he's noticed passing the same tree multiple times now. Nate says he's trying to buy them some time for the rescue team to find them, but Brandon and Alex warn him to be careful or else Chavez will notice. Nate tells Brandon that he should go back to the road and just turn himself in once the police arrive, but Brandon refuses to walk back through the woods alone to be sliced up by the cannibal hillbilly freak, and Brandon offers to do what he can to help once they reach the ranger station. They come across Three Fingers' truck sitting in the woods and recognize it as the car that ran them off the road to begin with. Thinking that it's a trap, Crawford is hesitant to go check it out, but is forced by Chavez and Floyd, who want him to hijack it. Crawford immediately gets caught up in a trap of razor wire, which brutally digs into his skin as Three Finger pops up and drives off, dragging him along against the road as it kills him. Chavez tries shooting at him but misses, as always, and now they're finally seeing the threat of Three Finger. Chavez demands that Nate gets them out of there, like he hasn't already been trying to do that the whole movie. This, once again, is a wasted opportunity. They know it's a trap, and I don't care how much money greedy Chavez is, but it would take zero effort to shoot the truck from afar, throw shit at it, or even just up and 180 the other direction and not engage. Up until this point, the traps have been hidden and popped out of nowhere and couldn't super be avoided, but here our gang is given a literal choice, and they chose to be stupid and walk up to it. Stealing Three Fingers' truck to get away would be a good idea, but instead of waltzing up to it with zero information where Three Finger clearly has the knowledge of power and the high ground here, taking some more precautions would have made the difference between Crawford being alive or not. Because once he was stuck in that razor wire net, yeah, honestly, there's no fucking getting out of that. Maybe if someone had good aim, they could have shot at the top hook that was holding him up to try and get him down. But we know Chavez's aim is shit, and none of them are that quick thinking anyways. If anything, once Chavez is totally left for dead, the least that they could have done was shoot him as he was being pulled away to take him out of his misery, because that would have been a quicker and faster way to go than being dragged down the road face first like this. I mean, fucking hell. Eventually, Alex is tired and wants to rest, and everyone complains that it's the money bags that's slowing down their movement and progress in getting out of here. Nate tells everyone that if they don't make it out in a couple hours when the bus is expected to arrive, the FBI, US Marshals, and every law officer in West Virginia is going to be hunting Chavez. Chavez refuses to leave the money behind, and thinking Floyd has impulse control and anger issues, takes all 3 guns back for himself, which honestly, yeah, why did you give this Nazi serial killer a gun in the first place? Nate tells Alex that there should be a radio and a cell phone at the watchtower, and he plans to call for help once they get there. There's a ladder where only one person can climb up at a time, and there will be a gun hidden through a trapdoor that he knows where to find. He plans to ambush Chavez up there and has it all planned out in his head. Meanwhile, Sheriff Carter finds the overturned and on-fire bus and tries to report its location over the radio while investigating it, while Allie pulls off the side of the road and investigates her own. Chavez makes some pretty emasculating comment to Floyd, whose growing anger and resentment towards Chavez suddenly turns him to attack Chavez with a branch he picks up. The two get into a physical fight on the ground, beating at each other. Nate and Alex take that opportunity to escape, while Brandon just stands and watches. Chavez beats in Floyd's face pretty badly, and then leaves Brandon and the money. Brandon makes a deal with Chavez. He doesn't want the money, he just wants to be let go alive and free once Chavez's gang shows up to save him, but Brandon convinces Chavez to give him one of the guns just in case the crazy cannibal comes after them. That way, they both have a chance to have each other's backs. Floyd, bloody and beaten but still alive, waddles off angrier than ever. Back in Three Fingers' lair, he has tons of gross body parts stewing and cooking as he packs up his truck and heads out again for some more kills, which, how has no one f***ing found this place yet? Give some police dogs like 20 minutes and I swear they could have found all these missing people. Chavez and Brandon hear Alex nearby and ambush them both. Chavez grabs Nate and says that he's been leading them in circles all night, but Nate swears the watchtower is nearby. Now back to the 4 of them together, they find the watchtower burned down years ago, and all that's left is some ashy remains. No idea what to do now, Nate says they can all head to a small town down the river, but Chavez, thinking Nate's been lying to him this whole time, gets ready to shoot Nate dead. Sheriff Carver's dog runs up and bites Chavez, and the legend comes up to the rescue, while he and Nate grab the guns and get control again. But Three Finger was up in a tree lying in wait, because once the sheriff gets the perfect spot, Three Finger drops a large stake that hits right through Chavez's throat, killing him instantly. Chavez uses that opportunity to grab a gun again and demand everyone go back to grab the cash. Well, that was short-lived. I know this is a small town, but what was Sheriff Carver's plan here exactly? He goes searching for a bus full of dangerous prisoners, and he thinks that he single-handedly can save them? Remember people, Carver is the one who knew about the hillbilly cannibal stories of these parts of town, so if anything, he should be the most cautious about it and bring the whole team. Him and Deputy Lane splitting up was a stupid move to begin with, and this really went as well as one could expect. When it comes to these sorts of things, it's really a numbers game where they need to outnumber the prisoners, or at least bring some sort of backup or machinery. This homie rocked up with a couple guns and a can-do attitude, but that's really no match for the f***ing steak he deep throats. Call him brave or call him stupid, but if a group of criminals went missing in the woods, I know some freaky shit has been happening in. I wouldn't race out to search the area without backup. Another good strategy here would be to stay in his police car and just drive around in his car. Not only would the headlights provide much better coverage than his shitty little flashlight, but it would be an external outer protection from the cannibal and be a quick escape route. Given Three Fingers is over here driving his truck willy-nilly up through these woods, I'm sure a police cruiser would be able to drive just fine too. The US Marshal team, having gotten Sheriff Carver's report of the bus crash, send out a search team to the area. Floyd finds the cash and grabs all the bags himself. While Chavez and the group see that the cash is gone, Chavez is furious. He goes to find Floyd, who is tossing the money all over, but little do they know that Three Finger is waiting for them with a makeshift Molotov cocktail. trail and lights all the money as well as Floyd on fire, and Chavez is forced to leave it behind. They see Three Fingers' truck again, but they're sure it's a trap, so they keep their distance this time. Finally, some logical thinking, but Chavez, the asshole that he is, pushes Alex out into the open and shoots her as bait. Three Finger immediately grabs her, sets a fire trail behind, and drives away. Chavez threatens to shoot Nate if he tries to go after Alex, but Brandon finally takes a stand and knocks Chavez out, taking his gun and giving Nate one too, and encouraging Nate to go save Alex. Brandon asks if they should kill Chavez, but Nate says that they're not murderers and they decide to leave him. Bro, what? After everything this man has put you through, he held you captive, beat you to shit, threatened to kill you, practically sacrificed Alex away to get killed by the cannibal, and now you're gonna just let him go? At least tie him up or something so he's not just roaming the woods and serving as another threat. And in terms of the rescue team, why not just stay by the fire, people? The huge pile of light and smoke would serve as the perfect SOS signal for the rescue team, so there's no point in going off into the woods. I mean, to save Alex, sure, yeah, but people are being picked off one by one here, Nate. At some point, you have to assume that anyone taken by Three Finger is as good as gone. Crawford was. The chance of Alex being alive is so low that I personally wouldn't want to risk my own safety for her. You two barely just met anyways. Alex gets dragged back to Three Fingers' lair, tries to escape by stabbing him in the leg, but doesn't make it too far before he pins her down again and licks at her face. Alex wakes up tied up in Three Fingers' shed and sees Deputy Allie nude, tied up and bleeding from a razor wire net. Three Finger enters and inspects them both, but runs out when he hears helicopters flying overhead. In their search for Nate and all the prisoners, Nate tries to flag down the helicopters, but they don't see him. Chavez knocks Brandon out in the woods and he takes his gun back. He comes across Three Fingers again and does a standoff. He shoots him once but runs out of bullets, and Three Finger attacks with his meat hooks. They get into a fight, but Three Finger manages to lay a good blow on his shoulder and a huge slit through his arm. Chavez almost lands a killing blow with an axe, but Three Finger ultimately overpowers Chavez and then kills him, cracking his skull open and eating his brain. F***ing gnarly. Nate comes across the sheriff's dog again and uses something of Alex's to give him her scent to go find her. Arriving at the cabin of so many hanging body parts, Nate heroically saves Alex and carries her out. Three Finger comes back and attacks them, and the three of them get into a brutal hand-to-hand combat fight. Three Finger kills the dog when it tries to help, goes to finish Nate off, but Alex manages to impale him right through the stomach. They drive off in his truck, but apparently Three Finger isn't f***ing dead yet because he rocks up in the middle of the road, jumps back on the truck, and attacks them again. He stabs them through the roof and tries to crawl through the side windows, causing them to drive off the road and crash. The car lights on fire as Nate quickly tries to get out. Brandon appears and is able to help them both out. When Three Finger attacks once again, Nate finally is able to kill Three Finger by slicing through his face with his own meat hook. The car explodes as the three of them walk away, burning that cannibal for good. Now, their first f***ing mistake, which I'm sure everyone was thinking, is that they shouldn't just leave Three Finger with the stake through the heart. Everyone knows that you have to shoot in the head to kill it once and for all. I mean, why did they just leave Three Finger like this? Always deliver a final blow to the head to make sure that they're dead for good. And once Three Finger was on top of the car, the easiest way to get rid of him would be slamming the brakes of the car so he goes flying forward and flying off the vehicle. You know, like how when you push the brakes too hard after a snowy day and suddenly your car is f***ing covered. They could have flung that bitch into oblivion and then run him over with ease, instead of just swerving back and forth chaotically. I'm glad Nate was able to get a hold of his meat hook here, but it does make me think they were in his secret lair. They could have taken a little time to grab some weaponry. At least a knife, maybe? Some sort of self-defense? They had an opportunity to arm themselves with extra stuff, and again, were far too passive. I mean, this whole movie has been a whole lot of walking around, being threatened by the same stuff, and letting shit happen to you instead of actively protecting yourself. And all the criminals were pretty awful people, so the amount of energy we wasted on protecting them and staying together was sort of a dud. Let this be a lesson. It's okay to be a little selfish in horror movies, especially when your fellow characters are pieces of shit. Believing that Brandon is a good guy who really didn't want to kill anyone or deserve his prison sentence, Nate tells Brandon to run away and be free, promising to tell everyone that Brandon died in the woods so that nobody comes looking for him. Nate and Alex comfort each other as they wait for the sun to rise and the Marshall team to come find them and rescue them, which they do come early morning. Now, that's a pretty good ending, right? Psych! In the last scene of the movie, sometime later, Nate is shown going back to the truck to grab the rest of the leftover money, planning to use it to go on a trip in Walter's memory. But he's immediately killed by being shot through the chest with an arrow by Brandon. Turns out he wasn't a good guy after all. Brandon goes to grab the money, but then he's killed by an unknown cannibal. Dun dun dun. Now I know that end scene is totally f***ing stupid, out of character for both Nate and Brandon's arcs, and is just fully used for shock factor, but hey, I'm just the messenger here to tell you what canonically happens in the movie, so don't come for me. Until next time. Wrong Turn 3. And there's 5 of them, so if you guys want, we'll cover 4 and 5. If you want, you gotta let me know in the comment box down below. You guys should also let me know what you would have done differently in this situation. I know a lot of it could have played out differently, and everybody who watches this movie comes out with like a different interpretation of the events. So let me know if we left anything out. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and check out that How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. I'm the guy. We'll see you in the next video, and have a damn good day.